Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next normal in collaboration with America Meditating Radio. Appreciate it just showing up with you as much as I can because I love learning. I love learning from your energy, your vibrations, the questions that you ask. But more than anything else, I love learning from the amazing guests that we have on air. Today I have a returning guest, someone that I feel very affectionately close to just because he's young and he's cute. But Kute Blackson has really become a beloved inspirational speaker and a transformational teacher and author of the national best-selling book, You Are the One, and his new release, The Magic of Surender, finding the courage to let go. Kut speaks at countless events around the world as well as at outside events, including AFest, the Young Presidents Organization, and the Entrepreneurs Organization. He's a member of the Transformational Leadership Council, a select group of 100 of the world's foremost authorities in the personal development industry. Winner of the 2019 Unity New Thought Walden Award, Kut is widely considered a next generation leader in the field of personal development. He's been featured on Larry King, Now, Fox and Friends, Dr. Drew, to name a few, Inc. magazine. Well, you get an idea, right? So let's give a warm welcome to Kute Blackstone. Welcome. So glad to have you back.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You've been traveling around a lot. Last time we spoke, I was in Miami, Florida, trying to have a vacation, ended up having the worst time. And you were on your way to Mexico. What have you been up to going to Mexico so often?
Mexico is a beautiful place, full of energy, full of openness. I would say that on some level, at least from the US side, Mexico has gotten a very bad PR rap, but it's nothing really like, I think, the perception of what people perceive from the American side of what Mexico is. It's, I think, one of the most underrated countries in the world, full of tradition, full of culture, full of richness, full of cuisine. And I think the people are some of the most genuine, real, authentic, open-hearted souls you'll ever meet that will welcome you with such abundance and such generosity. And so I think that's the gift of Mexico is the warmth of the people, the sincerity and genuineness of the people. It has tremendous culture. And, the first time I went to Mexico, I went to some of the pyramids and I thought, wow, we just hear about the pyramids and the spirituality of Egypt, but right in my backyard, a few hours away, you got pyramids, you have ruins, you have so much incredible history and ancient Mayan technology and spirituality that it's mind-boggling, really mind-boggling, and such a diverse culture. So I love spending time in Tulum, which is where I have a place there and a space there and do events there. And so I love it. It's a beautiful place.
About some of the events you're doing in Tulum, and thank you for sharing that in Mexico because we do hear very negative things that become a PR campaign to somehow try to push people or a culture or a country back. But maybe it's because the country has so much and it's a threat to another. So it's a great insight that you've just shared. So what are some of the events that you're doing over there?
I do some events for some of my higher level clients, and I build an event space there. And so they come, we dive deep, 7 days, deepening in spirituality, meditation. Really, what I do is I uncoach people, I unprogram people, I uncondition people from the patterns of conditioning that we have developed over the years, quite often from childhood, that we're not aware of. And so really the essence of my work that I do in Mexico and Bali and India and wherever, in weekend seminars, in ballroom, hotel rooms in Los Angeles, doesn't really matter where it is really about helping people peel away the layers of conditioning that we have built up over time, most of which we are unconscious of. And through an experiential, deep transformational process, I help people peel those layers away, reconnect to their true essence, and live from that place, share from that place, love from that place, create from that place as they get in touch with more of their true, authentic selves. I think we can then align with more of our true purpose. And so I do some of that work in Mexico, but also all over, everywhere. It's part of my job. I love taking people into different environments, whether it's Mexico, whether it's India, whether it's Bali, whether it's Costa Rica, whether it's Egypt. I just did an event in Egypt, because I think in so many ways as human beings, we get comfortable, we get habituated doing the same thing. We get comfortable, habituated in our comfort zone, in our zone of familiarity, my home, my cup of tea, my television, my bedroom, my socks, my daily routines. And I think so often those routines, which are great in many ways, but those routines, if left unchecked, can begin to condition us into a limiting identity. And so I think when we put ourselves in unfamiliar environments in different countries where we don't know anyone, where we don't know what's going on, where we can't speak the language, where we're not familiar with the customs, then it starts, I find, to loosen some of the grip of our sort of identity conditioning of who we think we are, who we know ourselves to be, when we're forced to mix up our routines in those places that we hold on to for a sense of me-ness, a sense of identification. And so I really love to use travel as a way to shake people free and loosen their own sense of self-identification, so that they can really find out, okay, who am I really? These belief systems that I've developed living where I'm living and growing where I'm growing, and from the culture I grew up. Am I my beliefs? Am I my thoughts? Am I my ideas? Am I all the routines I have? When those are gone and those get questioned, who am I really? And so that's really the essence of my work. You could say, getting to ask people the question, who am I truly, beyond those identities?
I've got a program that I'm offering at the Shift Network, and the whole program is about that, answering
Amazing.
that big question. Let's look at the clients. How do you actually acquire your clients? You've been on so many large platforms and very meaningful gatherings of people who might have heard you or seen you or just trust you. How do actually the clients come to you and sign up with you? Is there a particular way or format?
On a spiritual level, then I get a bit more practical. On a spiritual level, I believe that for me, what I do is a calling. And just to give you a sense, when I was a kid, born in Ghana, West Africa, my father's from Ghana, my mother's Japanese. I grew up in London. My father's a minister and a healer. I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear. And my father would put his hands on a person in a wheelchair and say, "Stand up." I grew up seeing on the floor. She picks up the sand. My father walks on, wipes it on her feet, wipes it on her face, and stands up. He didn't even know. And so my father was a miracle worker. And we grew up behind my father's church. I didn't have a lot of money. But I had big dreams. The dreams were I wanted to impact and inspire people to do, in a sense, what I'm doing now. And I would sneak into my father's church in the middle of the night with the lights off, no one around, no social media, no nothing, nobody, not a soul. And in the darkness, I would speak and give seminars to the empty chairs, imagining I was in ballrooms, imagining I was on platforms, imagining I was in stadiums, imagining I was giving seminars to hundreds, if not thousands of people. And so for me, I really believe spiritually that I have a soul agreement. We all have a soul agreement, that I have a soul agreement with people around the world. And so I believe that they find me, my clients find me based on that spiritual connection first and foremost. So where I start first and foremost as a foundation is a deep prayer. And my prayer to God, the universe, whatever someone believes, is number one, use me for the highest good. Use me to impact the souls that I'm meant to impact. And my prayer has always been for many years, God, bring me the clients that I am divinely appointed to reach and touch, that I have a soul connection with, that I have karma with, that I have that soul agreement with, that I may serve them. And so for me, it starts with that internal energetic opening, that internal energetic intention. I believe that intention actually draws people to me. Now, where I started off was one-on-one. My clients grew from working one-on-one and truly grew from the foundation of serving and transforming one life at a time 18 years ago. And I believe that I think when I transformed one life, one person's life transformed, they shared it with another person, they shared it with another person, they shared it, and it just started to spread that way. But from there, you could say, how did my clients on a bigger level start to find me? I began to make videos. And for me, it was never about how can I make money? It was never about how can I be famous? It was never about how can I be successful? It was always about how can I serve? How can I inspire people? How can I truly add value to people's lives? How can I, inspire people's evolutionary process? How can I be of service? That was always my question. So I began to make a lot of videos when I first started. I would make videos and put out content for free. It wasn't about being paid. It wasn't about any of that. It was just about adding as much value to people out there as possible. And so when I started to do that, people got value. We started a relationship, you could say, and everything was in that relationship. The relationship started to get built with my audience. And because I wasn't simply trying to sell people, I see a lot of people now that have come into self-help and spirituality that it's really all about marketing. It's not truly about service. It's about marketing. It's about sales. And there's a constant sense of selling people all the time. For me in the beginning, I just wanted to help people. And so I put out so much information out there that I think added a tremendous amount of value. And as a result, developed a real, authentic relationship where people started to trust me and I think began to feel that this guy really cares. This guy really means it. And for me, it was sincere. And as a result, with time, began to develop a relationship with my audience online. And that grew and that expanded, that continued to grow. And then when it came time to start doing events, there was already a relationship built in with my audience, and then they came, and then one came, and then
and one thing
50,
just led to another.
50, 100, 200, and it just evolved from there. And so I think for me, the key is if someone is seeking to build an audience, really seek to add value, seek to truly serve, seek to really meet the need and come from the consciousness and intentionality to be of service. I think that's a foundation.
I love that, coming from the intention of being of service, but also something that you said, which is very powerful, is that you knew the call was there. And I think a lot of us are getting the call, but we're so busy, we don't really get to answer it as much, Kute. And I'm glad that you have answered your call. With the global pandemic kind of waning down, I think it has taken a toll on the world. I guess because people had to become uncomfortable in order to make some changes. So a lot has happened. There are so many thoughts and interpretations at this time. Folks are really witnessing a great deal of questioning the economy, the future. What are your thoughts about what all of this actually means to us individually and collectively?
I think as we've gone through this time in the last year, we have been all collectively thrown into a global meditation, a global healing process. And I think many times in the individual healing process, the psychological, therapeutic, mental, spiritual process, part of the healing is not always pretty. Part of the healing is all of those dimensions and aspects of ourselves that we have suppressed, that we have denied, that we have run from, that we're not even conscious of, has to come to light, has to come to conscious awareness, to be looked at, to be embraced, to be loved, to be healed, to be released, in order for us to truly elevate our consciousness and truly rise into the highest potential of what we really are. And so I feel as though on a spiritual level, that we are in a very profound process of purification where we've been forced in the last year to become still. We've been forced to face ourselves. We've been and as a result of that, as challenging as it is, as uncomfortable as it is, we've been forced to get off of our TikTok routine and feel more deeply inside and look more deeply inside and really become still and question, who am I and what am I? And what am I doing with my life? And is what I'm doing real? Is what I'm doing authentic? And I think as a result, we've been forced to let go of what's no longer aligned. We've been forced to let go of what's no longer real, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's where we live. And I think as a result, we've been forced to increasingly face ourselves and tell ourselves the truth. And I think that's a very challenging thing for us as human beings. But it takes a tremendous amount of courage. I think one of the things that as human beings keeps us stuck keeps us from evolving, keeps us from transforming, keeps us from truly fulfilling our potential, keeps us from being truly fulfilled, happy, joyful, and alive, are all the ways we lie to ourselves, all the ways we don't tell the truth to ourselves, all the ways we rationalize and BS ourselves. We stay in relationships that we know it's not aligned, but we stay because it's comfortable. We stay because we're afraid. We stay because, there's a sense of security. We stay in jobs and a career that we know is not the reason and the purpose for why we were put on this planet in our lifetime. But we stay because, someone expects us to. And so I think this time, even though it is challenging, and I think sometimes in the moment when things fall apart, from the ego's perspective, it can seem like the worst thing. From the ego's perspective, we may not always understand why things are happening in a particular moment. I tend to believe that the universe is always in a process of evolution. The universe is always working for our highest good, even if we can't see it right now. And so I really feel as though this last year is an invitation for us to unplug from all those places we have held onto for a sense of false freedom, false safety, false ego, false sense of self, false identification. So, and we've been forced to really go inside more, connect more, get real even more, and find out what is true, what is real, what's the truth of what I believe, of who I am, of what I want, of what my life is about. And I think it's a process, if we're willing to embrace it, even though it's challenging, if we're willing to surrender to the process that is happening. The reality is, whether we surrender or not, we're in it, it's happening. So it's really about how we participate in it. I think if we surrender to it and in it, there is an opportunity for all of us. We're being called into a deeper sense of alignment.
Bigger too.
Just a deeper sense of alignment.
Authentic. Yep. Yeah, I agree.
And so,
it couldn't be a better time for the book to be coming out. I mean, it's been out for a while and it's doing well. The Magic of Surrender. And you talked about surrender, and it's funny because I found that even when I use or apply the energy of surrender, it's so empowering and it's so liberating. And that I question myself, why don't you just do this sooner? What is it that holds us back from the surrender? Is it the attachment? Is it the fear? And when we actually do surrender, tell us a little bit about what are some of the gifts that comes with our surrender?
Yeah, I don't think there's just one thing. I think there is attachment, there is fear, there is comfort, there is ego. In many ways, we get so identified to who we think we are, to the life we think we have, which ties into our sense of self. We get so identified to familiarity and safety that to surrender or to let go of who we think we are, the way things were, for the sense of identification, the sense of ego, who we believe ourselves to be, can be incredibly scary and threatening, because if I let go of this relationship, if I let go of this job, if I let go of fill in the blank, then who will I be? And it's going to be the unknown. And this sense of me that I thought I was tied up into that is going to die. And so, in a sense, it can feel like death to the sense of identification, the sense of self, the sense of ego. And so, in that sense, it's scary and it can be difficult. But on the other sense, I actually feel that surrender in the purest sense, when we have right understanding, is really the easiest thing. It's really the most natural thing. It's, in fact, harder to hold on. It's harder to hold on. The thing is, we've just been conditioned to hold on. Over the years of conditioning and survival, that holding on has just started to feel like normal, which is then why
we've gotten so addicted to the hard.
We've gotten so addicted.
It's easy. Yeah.
I want people to really reframe and understand it's actually easier to surrender. It's the most natural thing to let go. But we've gotten so conditioned out of fear, out of survival, out of getting approval, out of validation, out of parents, out of protecting ourselves to hold on in a sense of control. And I think control is the master addiction. And so once people just get, surrender is actually hardwired into our physiology. Every single one of us as human beings, we are in a process of surrender, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's, El Chapo, the drug dealer, whether it's Mother Teresa. Every human being is in a process of surrender. Life itself is in a process of surrender. It's just how we participate in that. Surrender is hardwired into our physiology. I feel it's the divine's way of reminding us it's all surrender is what's happening in every moment, because every breath is a surrender. And so how hard is it to it's harder to surrender. It's harder to hold on. And so I think when we can reframe our idea of surrender, there's this idea that surrender, a misconception that surrender is weak, that surrender is passive, that surrender means you're going to be taken advantage of, that surrender means you won't manifest your goals, your dreams, your desires, that you're going to be a doormat if you surrender. I'm actually saying, if you surrender and understand what surrender really is, if you surrender, what if you didn't get less, but you actually got more? More than you could imagine, more than you could dream, more than you could visualize, more than you could write on your poster board or your vision board or your journal. And so to surrender, just to break it down for people, is to let go of control, or the idea of control that we think we have, that we realized, for instance, last year, we really didn't have as much as we thought. To surrender is to stop trying to force and, shall we say, manipulate life to fit into our limited idea based on our identity, our ego, of how we think life should be. To surrender is to let go of who we think we should be, and to let go of the idea of the life that we think we should be living, so that we can open to the life that is seeking to happen. It's a shift in paradigm from asking yourself the question, what do I want? What do I want? This small sense of I, and a shift asking oneself the question, what is it that life is seeking to express through me? What is it that the universe is seeking to manifest and create through me? The deepest impulse of life. What is it seeking to express? And when you look at what happens, when you let go of what's not aligned, when you let go of what's no longer a vibrational match, you create the space, and you open the space, you shift your energy, you create the space for life to truly meet you, for the new to manifest, for the new to express. And I think many times when we surrender, what often shows up is more than we can imagine. That's the magic, that's the beauty, that's the blessing. And because when we surrender, we're no longer limited to the construct of our mind. We're now truly open, and living in that openness, we're truly open to life. And what life can do through us is not limited to the past, to conditioning, to a personality, to ego. Life is infinite. Life is unlimited.
Let me ask you for a pause right now, because you have just served us with a lot to percolate on. And you did it in a smorgasbord format. Like, I don't know which one to take or which one to eat, because these are really important things. I mean, many of us, and something that you said, it's so much easier to surrender than to hold on to so much.
Yes.
And how many of us are walking around suffocating?
Yes.
We look like we're alive. We look like everything is doing well, but we're holding on to little things.
Yes.
When the universe or God are just saying, you know what? Why don't you just get out of your own way and let me show you your capacity?
Yeah.
What is give us one thing that we can practice that can help us to get out of our way of mastering at least an element of surrender?
I'm going to say two things, a little bonus. Okay, I'm going to try to be quick. The first thing, I think, where we can all begin as on a practical level, is beginning to look at the lies that we're telling ourselves, and begin by radically telling yourself the truth. And so, simple questions. What lies am I telling myself? What lies am I telling myself? Because when we're lying to ourselves about what we keep ourselves completely on, what our life doesn't want. So what lies am I telling myself? What am I pretending to not know? What is it costing me? And allow oneself to feel the pain of the misalignment, to feel the pain of the holding on. When we hold on to what's not aligned, it's meant to be painful. That pain isn't bad. The mistake we make is when we feel the pain, We drink it away. We distract ourselves. We drink it away. We sex it away. We social media it away. Whatever, we eat it away so we don't have to feel the pain, which just perpetuates our stuckness. When we allow ourselves to realize that the pain that we feel is simply a signal, it's a messenger that something is not resonating, something is not aligned, it gives us the opportunity to feel the pain and use the pain as a gift and as a messenger to look more deeply inside. And so, what lies am I telling myself? That's one thing. To me, the truth will begin to set you free. The other key, I would say, that's really an important piece of surrender. There's 7 phases of surrender. I won't get into that now unless we have time. But one key that I've seen stops people from really being able to move into surrender. And surrender, I would say, is an open-hearted participation with life as it's happening. The open-hearted participation with the process of life that is unfolding in the moment. Surrender is a letting go. It is a letting go. Surrender is a death. Last year, many of us had dreams and visions of things we wanted to have happen that didn't happen. Intentions that weren't fulfilled. We had to let go of certain things. And so to truly move into surrender requires what I will call grieving. Many times, the key element that we miss is we don't fully allow ourselves to grieve the dreams that could have been, to grieve the phase or part of ourselves that we are releasing, to grieve the end of a relationship. Grieving is the portal to true surrender, because when we grieve, see, all feelings remain present till fully felt. And every feeling has its own natural cycle. And when we don't grieve, and sometimes we don't grieve, which prevents our ability to fully let go and surrender because we're still carrying on, holding on to the old, we often don't grieve because we're afraid that it will last forever. We're afraid that it will be overwhelming. I see many people do a spiritual bypass of, well, everything is God, everything is light. I want to stay in high vibration. I'm not going to grieve because it's not a high vibration, but we don't realize that when we suppress the pain or the grief energy, we just carry that with us, keep ourselves stuck, and recreate situations in our lives. So a really powerful way to move into surrender is to grieve the old, to grieve what was, and let that go. Grief has a cycle. Grief happens in stages. Grief happens in layers. And I find that when we fully let ourselves grieve, we can let the past go. We can let the ideas of what we thought ourselves to be go. And then we can truly begin to embrace the new. That's a portal and a nudge into surrender.
You know, the last time we met and we spoke briefly, you were ending a relationship that was really valuable to you.
Oh, sure.
Was grieving a part of the process?
For sure. Grieving was a huge part of that process. I think many times we're afraid of the grief because we feel we're weak, we're afraid it's not spiritual, we're afraid it's going to last forever. But all feelings remain present till fully felt. So when I ended a relationship, and any relationship I've ended, to be honest, I have forced myself to feel, to sit, to not distract, to not run away, to feel and face the feelings of grief that are coming up, not judge them as good or bad. One of the ways that people might be wondering, well, how do I feel? Many times we think we're feeling, but we're telling ourselves a story about what's happening. Many times we think we're feeling, but we're thinking about the feeling, not truly feeling. So how do you truly feel grief or whatever the feeling might be? I would just guide people and say, take the label off of the feeling, take the judgments off of the feeling, and simply experience and feel the sensation and the energy of the feeling, the sensation and energy in your body, and allow that to move through. Every feeling has a cycle. And so when my relationship ended, I felt it fully. And the grief it doesn't just disappear overnight. There's one layer of grief, and then another layer of grief, and another layer of grief. But with time, the layers peel away. When my mother died, which was partly the inspiration for my book too, my heart, Sister Jenna, broke. I mean, my heart broke open in a way I cannot explain, with the depth of grief that I had never felt before.
Mm.
I allowed myself to feel the grief. And here's what I found. My heart broke open, tears, emotion, grieving. But I saw that the shape of my heart's current capacity to feel and love broke open. And when it broke open, it wasn't broken. It was broken open. And there was a bigger capacity to love even more. And it's through the process of feeling the grief or the pain, knowing that you're not the pain and knowing that you're not the grief, so you don't have to get lost in it. It's through the process of feeling it and allowing that layer to dissolve and realizing that you can't be broken, that you find a deeper strength inside of yourself beyond or more than resisting the grief. And so I think one of the quickest ways through something is to feel it. And one of the reasons people stay stuck in a relationship, can't let something go, is because we don't feel it. One of the reasons I've seen too, unconsciously many times, that people don't want to feel the grief of the end of a relationship or the death of a loved one also is this. There's an unconscious part of us that feels like, well, if I don't fully grieve it and let it go, then I can always hold on to the idea of that person. I can always, then I don't have to acknowledge that they've really died. I don't have to acknowledge that they've really gone, that they're really gone, that the relationship is really over. So when I don't feel it, that's kind of how we keep ourselves stuck. And so, yeah.
Don't you think also that there's a recording in the soul where the soul feels a sense of completion or interior perfection where it feeds more the innate qualities of its existence. So when it actually, it's like its subconscious could, it's like, I know that we don't last forever. I know my loved ones maybe won't last forever with me, whether it's by lieu of death or by just conscious departure. So
Yes.
there's a struggle that happens inside, like, nothing
Yes.
lasts forever. And so there's an element of wisdom that wants to come up at the same time when you're grieving and going, God, I'll miss them. Oh, I'm
Yes.
so hurt with what they did. So then you've got the energy of attachment that's mixing in this sort of a, you know, dualistic thinking. One is, I'm wise enough. Okay, end of this relationship. Okay, I have to say goodbye to my mother. Or there's a part of you that says, but I'm strong enough. These are the things that happen. And, or you get so caught up in it that you really don't know how to let go. Isn't the opportunity here to get to a place where we're authentic is to find a good balance
Sure.
with the inner and the outer, with the grieving and the celebration? And if that is so, do you know what that one step can be to get to that balance?
Yeah, I think it's, the danger I see is that people can do a spiritual bypass and, oh, I know that we're all one. I know that they're not really
Yeah.
gone, but then we don't allow ourselves to feel the human level emotions that are moving through. And so we have this great spiritual awareness. And then when we kind of come out of that elevated state of understanding, the human is what sort of brings us back down to earth and we stay stuck in it. So I think one of the ways through is to allow yourself to consciously, with awareness, feel and let go, but feel the sensations and allow them to move through. It's really about truly feeling the sensations in your body and allowing them to move through without story. And that's, so if I were to really direct people, is take the label off of the feeling. Don't label it as good or bad, happy or sad. Take the label off. Because many times we have associations with, sad is bad. That's not spiritual. Only happy is spiritual. Take the label off. Experience your experience as you're experiencing it, but experience the feeling as a sensation in your body with conscious awareness and notice what happens. You will start to find that when you can be with the sensation, it begins to move through. It begins to dissolve. The layers of grieving in this scenario, it will not last forever. It will move through. So your ability to just take the label off, experience it through the body as a sensation, and allow it to move through is part of what allows it to dissolve. And then as that energy dissolves, then you naturally vibrate into a more sort of coherent alignment.
Sure.
Not because you're doing some technique to make yourself be okay and have the understanding, but because you've released the old energy that is perhaps blocking or preventing the innate realization of what's always so that we deeply know deep down anyway.
And like you know and you believe too, truth is innate in every soul, and that automatically has that wisdom that's recorded inside of us.
Yes.
I mean, I hate that we're coming to a close to our wonderful time together. Please leave us though with, is there anything that you've got coming up, right? Like any events or programs or precious?
The best thing, I would just invite people to check out my website, just my name, kuteblackson.com. And there's a ton of videos they can get for free and just be inspired there. The book, The Magic of Surrender, just check it out. There's lots of content I provide online to serve people. And so no live events coming up now, but definitely in 2022, we'll be doing more stuff. So they can just check stuff out.
Blackson, you're just amazing. Really love your energy and the way the universe has presented you to the world, where you're just your own life experiences is becoming the message and the teachings. And there's nothing more authentic than that. So thank you so, so, so much. All right, folks, I'm sure you've loved my time with Kute. If you'd like some more information, do check him out. He's left us with a lot of tools that's going to help us. No matter what you're going through, you're going to find something from our conversation today. So remember, nobody has the capacity to take away your happiness unless you give them permission. And I suspect that if you really look deep enough, we're actually here to love each other the same. Take good care, be well, and just be nice. Thank you for joining us.